This week on Pit Stop with Don and James, we recap the Montreal Grand Prix. We look back at Sergio Perez, and Don debuts some new socks.
Welcome to Pit Stop with Don and James. I'm Don.
And I'm James.
How you doing, James?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Today was a great weekend for racing.
Yeah, we had our, of course, the Montreal, Canada Grand Prix for Formula One, and also we had the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Yeah, man. Great race. I got to shout out Robert Kubica. I've been a huge fan of him for a long time, winning with the AF Course Ferrari team. Not a factory team. They're a private enterprise, so it's pretty
Nice.
cool to see a private enterprise come out on top. First Polish driver to win the outright event, and then same thing with his teammate. I'm gonna botch his name because he's from China. Yi Yafi, I think is how you say his name. First Le Mans winner from China, so a great round of firsts this weekend. So congrats to them, along with Philip Hansen, who's a British. I believe he's a British endurance driver and a sports car driver, GT sports car driver. So congrats to all three of them and coming up. So it was a great 24-hour race, and they did it. So
very cool. Yeah, congrats to them. Kubica is a former F1 driver. I don't know about the other guys, but I don't think so, right?
No, but they do have their own decent racing pedigrees behind them. So, but yeah, Robert Kubica, I believe he's the third driver to win in a Formula One car and win an endurance race. So
nice.
I think the other two are Mark Webber, and I'm probably going to forget the other one actually, but Mark Webber is one of them.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Fernando Alonso. That's who it is. Fernando Alonso and Mark Webber.
I didn't watch a lot of the Le Mans coverage. Maybe an hour's worth. It's not something that I've usually kept up with, but I did notice that they had it available. I don't know if you had a place to stream it, but I think on Max they had coverage available. So formerly HBO Max, now just called Max. I heard a rumor they're going to go back to HBO Max. I don't know.
Yeah, but, I did see that rumor that they're switching back to HBO. So
nice.
Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't think it matters what you call it. They're still going to probably get the same ratings.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of, there's several races that are kind of holy grails for auto sports people. And 24 Hours of Le Mans is one of them, in Indianapolis 500. I'm not sure in F1, you almost want to say Monaco, but I don't even know that
Monaco's part of the Triple Crown. So I'll say Monaco.
Yeah. It's just not such a good race, but I think that Le Mans still is a good race, and Indianapolis is still a good race. So they got to do something there, or we got to switch it from, I don't know, if you were going to replace Monaco as the crown jewel of F1, what track would you pick?
Oh, man. It would probably have to be Spa. Spa, I think, would be my top pick for it. Great track. Everybody loves Spa. Nobody hates Spa.
Yeah, Spa is a fantastic track. I think I'd probably pick Silverstone just because I think it maybe is a little more like the home of the sport, so that's what I'd probably pick.
That's a pretty good one too.
Yeah,
everybody loves Silverstone. Nobody hates Silverstone either.
If I was being really, a homer, obviously I'd pick one in the United States, but I just think that'd be wrong. You can't make Austin the crown jewel, and
no, definitely not.
And Vegas and Miami are, they're too new and they don't have any kind of history there.
Agreed.
Yeah, but yeah, Silverstone.
No, congrats to him. Congrats to Ferrari.
Yeah, nice,
great win.
Nice. Well, we had a the Canadian Grand Prix. The first trip this year, no, not the first trip, the second trip this year to North America, right? Miami and then Montreal.
Yep, that's right.
So the conditions were good. Didn't get rained out or have any kind of wet weather to speak of. Uh, Interestingly, it was fairly warm all the way up north there. The track temps were a little high. Tire degradation came into play. Um, there was a lot of people on multiple stop strategies. I don't know. Did everybody end up stopping more than once? I don't know. It might have
There
been a
were a
couple of
handful of drivers that only
that did
did
a
it on
one
the
stop.
one stop, but I think it's mainly because that yellow came out at the end, but
Yeah,
or maybe not, who knows. But yeah, it was an interesting one for strategy this weekend.
yeah. I My overall take. I don't know if you're gonna like this or not. My overall take was that I didn't love the race a whole lot. Like I felt like there was pretty long stretches of the race that I wasn't super captivated by. Certainly took a turn towards the dramatic near the end, which I guess we can get into in a minute. But I did kind of feel like it was a bit. It was a bit. There wasn't a ton of uh, action. There was, I mean, the strategy and the tire degradation did kind of make for a lot of shuffling around, and we did see some positions gained and some positions lost. We had a couple of DNFs. So I don't know, where should we start, James?
Oh, I like to start all the way at the beginning. Maybe we should. I don't know how far back you want to go.
Well, we should
I
talk
was
about quali, right? And let's just set the well, unless you had something you wanted to talk about with practices, we did have people hitting the wall in practice, right?
Yeah, we did have a couple of people uh, get close to the wall. One of the McLarens, Oscar Piastri, caught the back tire uh, and shattered it. Not exactly ideal, which is unfortunate. Ended up costing Yukiya Tsunoda a grid place penalty due to that. Oscar Piastri caught the wall of champions and busted his back right wheel. Had a flat tire, the red flags were out, and going extremely slow on the track. And Yuki Tsunoda, trying to get back to the pits himself, passed Piastri under the red flag, even though he was crawling. And the stewards seemed to think that it warranted a 10-place grid penalty. I don't know. I saw that and I was like, well, that's pretty unjust. I mean, Piastri's limping around the track. He's not going at what I would consider a reasonable pace.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but I feel it was pretty unjust.
Yeah, harsh. I mean, they're trying to maintain order, I guess, but I mean, come on, man. 10 basically based what that meant was if he finished anywhere in qualifying, um, fifth or lower, his goose was cooked, Uh, and so yeah, another rough weekend for Sonoda.
Yeah, and not that it really mattered because uh, his qualifying effort wasn't exactly the best. I mean, he did qualify 11th. I think
Yeah.
we should say that. He qualified 11th.
Mm-hmm.
So a decent outing, I guess you could say, for Sonoda being in the Red Bull. Um, but starting 18th, Lawson and Gasly both started from the pit lane. So
Right.
a tough one. And then also a little bit of drama in qualifying. We had Hadjar blocking Carlos Sainz, and Hadjar only got a 3-place grid penalty for impeding.
Yeah, doesn't that seem a lot more impactful, right? Like
It
what he
does
did.
seem so much more impactful. It was a man. Honestly, like it really ruined Sainz this weekend because I think Williams definitely had the pace. We saw Albon get into the top 10
Yep.
in qualifying, which was a great effort, but just on qualifying merits, Sainz is only able to put in a 17th best lap.
Yep.
Although he did start one position up in 16th due to Sonoda's penalty. So,
yeah. I mean, yeah. When you start P17, you got very little hope of pulling anything off. But I say that, and Sainz did claw his way up, right? In the race, he took P10 and got a point.
P10 and got a point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest movers of the race. So Sainz gained 6 positions, as well as Yuki Tsunoda also gained 6 positions.
Yep.
Shortly behind him, Ocon gained 5 and Gasly gained 5. So some good movement around towards kind of the back end, well, middle back, I guess. Um, but
Yeah, there
yeah,
was.
I'm gonna agree with you. The race was it really was all strategies where the majority of the passing took place,
Mhm.
with all the pit stops. The only ones that were on that managed to do a single stop strategy were the guys that were in the back. So it was Gasly, Sonoda, Ocon, and Sainz. They all did a one stop strategy. Of course, they all started on the hard tires. So
Yeah, there was a battle for the like 10th position, and all those guys were hanging on. I don't know if you noticed that they were hanging on, going long stints on the first stint. Just
oh yeah,
it was just like a game of chicken to see who was gonna pit first, right? And I think it was like Albon, um, maybe Alonso, Colapinto. Those guys were all kind of like hanging in the P9 to P11 range, and like just waiting to see if someone was gonna flinch. And that was kind of interesting. I gotta say, for whatever reason, I don't know if I just was sleepy today or something, but I was having a hard time really keeping track of the strategy. You know what I mean? Like usually I have like some sense of like, okay, I understand why they did this or that, but I was getting all mixed up in the different strategies that the teams were playing. So it was hard for me to keep track of it. I'm still probably a little lost on what was going on, and honestly, I wasn't the only one. You saw radio messages from people like Charles Leclerc or Albon coming on the radio, and they were like furious with the strategy calls. I thought that was kind of
yeah.
interesting.
Well, I think it's important to note all the top guys started on the mediums, with the exception of Norris and Leclerc. Norris and Leclerc were seventh and eighth. And then even down kind of in the midfield, all those guys were on mediums. So Albon, Colapinto, Hulkenberg. It's not until you get Ocon in 14th that Ocon down started on the hard tires, trying to do the long stint. So it was a pretty good mix. And you're right. Leclerc came on. He's like, oh, I think we should. I think he said he wanted to do Plan C, whatever that might have been. I assume it's a very long stint. And Fry was like, "No, we're just gonna do Plan B. That's just what we're gonna do." And he's like you could hear the frustration in the radio messages, man. I think they really need to start paying attention to what Leclerc has to say, because whenever Ferrari strategists make the call, it's usually the wrong one. It usually never works out for him. So I think they really need to take what he has to say into play.
Yeah, he's been with the team long enough, right? He's earned his keep, and he's a bright guy. I'm sure that he just needs to flex a little more of his muscle, to say, look, no, uh, and I think he's kind of inching his way towards that. It seems like over the years he's gotten more and more bold about like speaking his mind about what he thinks they should do strategy wise.
Yeah.
Albon was frustrated as well with his engineers and the calls that they made. Uh, they kept him out there too long. Then they started talking about having him come in. He's like, no, you waited too long. Like, and again, that seemed to be the correct call. Although Albon ended up with a DNF, so his power unit, something's up. And this is that the second race in a row now? His power unit has had problems.
Yeah, he's had. Yeah, they came on the radio and they said we're monitoring a PU, or a power unit issue, and they said it was similar to the one that he had in Barcelona, and they were just kind of monitoring it. But to go to your point on the strategy, I went back and kind of looked at it again. So Albon had kind of a rough start. He got passed on lap one by, I believe it was Colapinto. Got right by him. A great move from Colapinto. Albon took a flight detour across turn. I believe it was turn 8. Got a, through the grass. Got a little airborne there, and um, I guess you're going pretty high speeds, because he came onto the track kind of haphazardly, um, which didn't help him. But So Albon was down to lap. He was down to 12th after lap one, so he went all the way down 3 places after his detour. So I made a note. So the first person to pit on the mediums was Max, and he pit on lap 12. And then Albon was the last to pit on the mediums, which was all the way down in lap 22, a whole 10 laps after uh, what the other guys did. And when he came out, he was in last. Like Williams totally botched it
Yep.
on the strategy call. I think maybe what, in my mind, what happened was is like they saw the times that everybody was putting in, because at that point Albon was putting in the slowest lap time out of everybody, even across the hards, because the tires had so much degradation from the course. And so they're like, oh well now we have to pit him. Like, I don't think they accounted for just how bad the degradation was. I think it was Ocon who said during the practice sessions, he's all like, it's not like you warm up the tires and then the degradation hits. He's like, as soon as you get out of the pits, it's almost immediate that you feel the degradation on the tires. Like whatever this track is, like how it's built, it just eats these tires up.
And the mediums were not holding up at all. Everybody was basically like, well, and remember that at the beginning of this season, we talked about the change in compounds. This year's medium is last year's soft tire. So, it just got chewed. And the hard tire seemed to be the one to go on. And, the, well, the hard tire, I didn't feel like it was even going as long as it usually does, because there was plenty of guys going on these hard tires and then swapping out, right? So like Leclerc had went from hard to hard, then had to switch to medium. Like he was forced to give up the first position. He was forced to give up P1 because he had to pit to put on a different compound because of the rules, right? So you kind of have to wonder, what would have happened if Leclerc had started on a medium, or switched compounds on the first pit. Would that have been a better call? Ultimately, the Ferraris ended up, what was it, 5 and 6? Leclerc 5, Hamilton 6.
I think Leclerc being on the hard tire was the right strategy, because he moved up 3 positions, right? Because he started all the way down in 8th and he finished 5th. So right. A great result from Leclerc, just outside. I mean, before the yellow came out, all the top 5 guys were running within 6 seconds of each other. It was a really close running. They're just sitting in that DRS train.
That's true.
Going around the track.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I just kind of wonder if, because he was forced to switch. I don't know. I guess maybe if he would have gone to the mediums didn't really seem to be gaining anybody any speed, any grip to get better speed and performance. So, but maybe if he had been able to go on to those earlier, see what it was like, and instead of having to wait till the end, I don't know. It's hard to say. Might have turned out completely worse. So I guess it's one of those things we'll never know. But I just kind of felt for him, because they went from hards to hards. He was then in the lead of the race, if I'm not mistaken. But it wasn't a net lead, because everybody knew he had to pit again. There was no option to stay out and just see how long he could go. He really had to come in eventually. So, but yeah, he ended up 5th and Hamilton 6th. So he jumped 3 places. Hamilton dropped 1 spot. Hamilton qualified 5th, right? So, not a particularly great day for Hamilton. He came on the radio at one point and was like, I'm nowhere in this race. He was in no man's land. He was well back of the guy in front of him. And he didn't really have anybody challenging him. He was just driving around the circuit, and with no real hope of gaining any position or anything.
Well, after the race, he said he hit a groundhog.
Oh, yeah.
Around lap 12. And I went back and watched lap 12, and I think I saw where he hit it. The groundhog was kind of in like a shadowy part of the track. Yeah. As you know, Montreal, there's a ton of trees around the circuit. So Really ruined his aerodynamics, I guess, somewhere on the bottom of the car, and he just couldn't find any time.
Mm. Well, poor groundhog. Yeah, he was upset about it. He felt bad about hurting an animal. He
Yeah,
really didn't like that.
huge animal rights activist, right,
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
But groundhogs have always been uh, a landmine problem at, at Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve.
Well, this wasn't the first incident with roadkill either. I think Pierre Gasly hit a rabbit in a previous race, and so yeah, I don't know. It's a dangerous place to be out there on the track. I don't know what you do. Maybe they need to have somebody go out and scare off all the animals, like before these sessions or something. I don't know. Be hard to do. Groundhog's probably hard to evacuate from the area.
Yeah, especially being on a little island. Well, I don't know. They're on a little island, so who knows? But
Yeah.
probably a protected animal. But yeah, very unfortunate for Hamilton. But uh, a bit of team orders coming in on Alpine. I don't know if you saw,
I
but
did.
Gasly was given the order to swap down and let Franco by.
Yeah.
Which I think was the right call because Franco ended up cruising pretty well. Like it didn't take long for him to put some distance between him and Gasly after they made the swap.
Yeah, lap 36 out of 70 that they radioed in and told Gasly to let him by. I mean, good sign for Colapinto, right? I mean, uh, it's right now Colapinto and Jack Doohan competition for who is going to keep that second seat with Alpine, and if they're making team order calls for Colapinto's favor, that seems like a good sign for him.
Yeah, I would agree. He actually had like a fairly good weekend this weekend. Franco did. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he matched his best finish. His best finish was 13th in Monaco, and he finished 13th here. So not terrible. I
Down
mean, he
down
did
a
start
place.
10th, so he lost 3 positions during the race over the
Yeah.
strategies, but he's not doing any worse than what he's done. So
Yeah.
he just can't break ahead of 13 for whatever reason.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Not, I mean, I'm not sold on him necessarily. Not really sold on the Alpine car as a whole. You know what I worry about though is I worry about Pierre Gasly. I'm not really sure. Like he should be winning handily against his teammate, right? Like he shouldn't be um, getting team orders called in on him. He finished P15. Colapinto was P13, so he got outperformed by the younger driver. Um, so I don't know what to make of this. I hope Pierre is. I hope he's not dropping off in some way.
Well,
But
he's
yeah,
kind of had a mixed season, right? I think we've talked
yeah,
about it before because he's got 2 DNFs under his belt, one in Saudi Arabia, one in Monaco, and then he also has the disqualification from China. The lowest he's finished. This is his lowest finish of the race of the season, actually. So he finished 15th. He's come 13 a handful of times, with his highest being 7 in Bahrain and 8th in his last outing at Spain. So he just needs some sort of consistency, going forward because the where he's finishing is just so up and down. Like he just needs to find the groove and just stick in it instead of bouncing around everywhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I kind of feel like that has been the name of the game with Pierre, though. Everywhere he's been, I don't recall seeing him consistently, even in like a P10 or a P 8 or something like that. Like I feel like the other places where we've seen him race, Red Bull, um, was it AlphaTauri or was it still Toro Rosso when he was there, and then at Alpine. I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of Pierre Gasly. I like the guy. He seems like he's a good guy. He seems like at times he pulls out brilliance. But yeah, you're right. Just not consistent. Not consistent. Has he won a race? Did he win one of those where he came in and kind of scooped one up? What that was a wild wet race or a lot of DNFs. I can't remember if he maybe just a podium. I can't remember.
Pierre Gasly. Wasn't it in Brazil? Is
They
that where it
definitely had
happened?
a two cars on the podium last year, and I think it was in Brazil, and it was Ocon and Pierre, but I just don't remember where they were, what positions they were.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was either I don't think that they
Brazil, he got third
okay.
last year. He also had got fifth in Qatar and seventh in Abu Dhabi. Those were kind of the highlights of his season. Again, last season he was kind of all over the place
Mm-hmm.
because he's had a few 15s, a few 12s, but then he had like a few nines. Uh, he had three DNFs last year, and it did not start one year at Great Britain. So I mean, again, just
Yeah.
no consistency across the board for him.
Yeah. Interesting. He's a guy to keep our eye on.
I think you're right, though. He does have flashes of brilliance. I do think he's a very strong driver. Just can't ever translate it. Just
Yeah.
never really comes across, does it?
So speaking of that, that kind of just reminded me of like the strong driver Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg hauling in 4 more points this weekend, finishing
Yeah, man.
in P8.
Yeah, what a great run for Nico, huh?
Yeah, man. I really like Nico. I think he's been in Formula One for quite some time. I mean, he definitely had a break a few years ago, but has hung around, as a consistent driver, in the sport. And if I'm remembering right, he's never gotten a podium, and I really want to see him get one. And I would have never thought that a Sauber could maybe get on a podium, but I think with the right conditions, if something kind of like what we were just talking about with Alpine, he's driving well enough in that car that if something goes haywire, some you know red flag or something happens, he could maybe find his way onto that podium in the Sauber. I like that's the kind of thing we were seeing out of Alpine last year. They were hanging around the kind of the lower point scoring positions, and one race got wild and they scooped up a bunch of points and got on the podium. So I'd like to see Hulkenberg maybe get that. That would be awesome, especially in a car that's not great like the Sauber. It'd be cool.
Yeah, man. Scooping up 10 points. He had points in Australia, finishing seventh. Got nice 6 points, but man, very opportunistic. You could tell he had a moment of brilliance just from being, in the sport for so long. Being a veteran, he had that veteran mentality. And when Albon came back onto the track after going off on lap one, Nico read it like completely right, moved to the inside because he knew Albon was going to go all the way over from being off on the grass, and just blew right by him, gaining
Yeah.
two positions in one go. What an opportunistic move.
Yeah, man. Nice.
Something only a veteran would do, right? You're not seeing a rookie do that.
Yeah, probably pretty rare to see a rookie thinking that far out in advance, right? Like he saw that coming and jumped on it. Nice move by Hulk. He also overtook Yuki on lap 49. Um, so kind of like midpoint, a little mid later in the race, had a nice overtake on Yuki. I mean, to me, when I saw that, I kind of like did a face palm on behalf of Yuki because I was just like, come on, man, Yuki, you cannot be getting overtook by a Sauber. I mean, he's got to do better than that. So yeah, that was kind of crazy. That was the lap 49, same lap that Albon had to pull the plug, and he was coming around the hairpin, had power unit failure. Luckily, was able to just be right. It was right at one of the little runoffs where they have a gate access to, and he was able to pull the car all the way off the track pretty much. So it was a very quick turnaround. I think it was just a hazard in that sector, and then they cleared it and put the green flag back up. If I'm remembering right, do I have that right?
I don't even think it went to yellow because he parked behind the Armco at the back of the hairpin. So
Yeah.
no need for it. And then Lawson retired shortly after. It was a super bummer, man.
Yeah, Lawson, he was way back. He was at the back of the grid and he was well behind
And
everybody.
had started from the
And
pit
it's
box too.
So again, another not good day for Lawson. I don't know. These are mounting. He retired on lap 57 by my notes. Um, and but it didn't. I mean, the retirement. I mean, it was kind of moot anyway because he was just back there, and he did. It was a big gap between him and the next car. I can't remember how many
Yeah.
seconds, but I want to say around 20 seconds or something like that between him and whoever was up there. So yeah, bad day for Liam. Liam, where did he start? He started from the pit, so he
Start from the pit
qualified on merit 19 and then started from the pit lane. I mean,
as
forgettable,
19. So
forgettable.
yeah, not another great weekend for Lawson. Man, that guy just he's having some horrible luck this year, man. It's really breaking my heart.
Little snake bit.
Yeah. I mean, he had a good run in Monaco, right? He finished 8th. Spain, he was just outside the top 10 and 11th. Just just can't seem to really get into the top 10 and stay there. Unlike Hadjar. Man, Hadjar has been absolutely crushing it. Even with the three place grid penalty, he still came where did he finish? Where did Hadjar finish today?
Well, he finished
He
far
finished
back,
16th, but yeah,
16.
I guess he didn't have a good day today.
But his quality was
I take
not
that one
bad.
back.
His he qualified a much better than that, right? So he was in P9 at he made it all the way to Q3, qualified P9. So I mean, again, a better weekend than Lawson. So even though his weekend was bad, he's still showing that he's beating the pants off of Liam Lawson. Like I don't think anybody could reasonably compare the two and think that Liam's not better. He's doing, or not Liam. Isaac is better than Liam. So yeah, I think a rough finish for him this time, but all in all, he's putting together a good season. In fact, I think to me he's the clear best rookie out there. Although Antonelli for a while it was kind of neck and neck between the two of them, and you might even be able to make the argument that Antonelli is the better or having a better season. He's in a better car for sure in the Mercedes, and then Antonelli kind of dropped off for a few races, but then he had kind of the drive of his life today. Antonelli he qualified P4 and he finished up a place on the podium. So his first ever career podium. Um, pretty big deal for him.
Yeah, man, his first podium in his first year in Formula One. Congrats to him, man. What a fantastic drive. He got past Piastri within the first 3 corners, I think it was. Made quick work of him and didn't even look back. That was kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a stellar drive. It was not easy. He was having to defend a bit. He had both McLarens coming up right behind him, and so he had to keep it clean, and he did, which is not the same that we can say for the McLaren. So I don't know. Do we go right to that bit of drama, or do we have anything else we need to tee up first?
Maybe just touching quickly back on Hadjar. So Hadjar is about 50-50 being in the top 10 and being outside the top 10. This was his worst race. Prior to this, his worst position was 13th in Bahrain. Um, so he's 5 outside of the top 10 and 4 inside of the top 10, and this is his first time being in the bottom 5. So I think this is just kind of a one-off for him. At least I'm hoping so. I'd really like to see him get back in the top 10. I think putting him up against Antonelli, if they were in the same car, I think Hadjar would edge him out, man. Hadjar just seems to be just kicking butt in the car that he's in. So,
and the thing that he's had that we were just talking about with Pierre Gasly, he has consistency. I mean, even in the race in Australia when he had the embarrassing exit on the formation lap, he had qualified well. It was the rain that caught him out, probably nerves because it was his first race, but he has really done well every week. And in fact, there have been times in qualifying when under the gun, had to pull out a fast lap to keep going in qualifying, and he's done it. So I I have been routinely shocked. A lot of times you'll see a guy needing to put in a good time and they just come up short and they don't get it done. But he seems to find the time in qualifying, and then he doesn't. I mean, he normally converts whatever. Well, I'm going to say it like this: he seems to convert his qualifying position into around the same area where he started. He takes it and converts. Now, I didn't go back and check that, so we'll have to maybe fact check that one and make sure that I'm not just going off of what it seems like to me. But if I feel like that's one thing he's got going, he really seems like week after week we keep saying he looks good and he's sharp and he's doing a good job. Like we rarely are saying, that was a miss. I mean, obviously this week we are kind of saying that, but it's 1 out of 10. That's pretty good for a rookie.
Yeah. But maybe we should get to the crux of the of the race.
Okay, yeah, let's circle back.
Yeah. From my perspective, and I think everybody's in agreement, is that Norris just made a mistake. Even after the race, he found Piastri. Kind of, everybody doing their media interviews. He went up to him and said, "Hey, it was my fault." Even on the radio after he made the mistake, he was like, "Hey, this is my bad." Like it was just a rookie error on my part. Committing the cardinal sin, man.
Yeah. So I mean, this was. I guess we can recap for folks. Lap 67 out of 70. The order at this point is George Russell P1, Max P2, Antonelli P3, Piastri P4, Lando P5. The McLarens in their first ever duel with each other here this season, where they were racing each other. Lando had the pace. He was gaining on Piastri. Seemed like he had the pace to overtake him. He had DRS. Eventually, Piastri, in somewhat of an attempt to fight off his own teammate, was getting within the DRS distance of Antonelli. So it was starting to get to that point, and I think maybe what happened was there was a bit of desperation from Lando, because he knew that if Oscar catches DRS for Antonelli, Lando was going to be doomed to stay behind him, right? Because he would have got DRS, but so would have Oscar, and it would have been a net zero effect for either of them to try to overtake. So Lando tries to make a move on Oscar down the front straight, right? I mean, they're coming down the front straight. He thinks he kind of sees a gap to Oscar's left to put the pedal down and go around him, but there isn't room. Lando, it's too late. His front wing clips the back of Oscar. Doesn't do any real damage or throw Oscar offline really at all, but Lando sends himself into the wall. Game over for Lando. Squanders 10 points from P5, which he would have gotten had he just stayed put. So bad ending for Lando. Oscar, I guess we could maybe sort of presume that had that not happened, Oscar might have, been able to threaten Kimi a little bit more for maybe a podium finish. So maybe that's why, Lando feels the need to go and apologize if he cost him points. So yeah, that was a bad day for McLaren and sort of the inevitable to happen. Now, I think I said something to the effect a few races ago when I was making a bold prediction that it was gonna happen, that they were gonna collide with each other or something like that, or they were gonna have to retire a car. And this has been happening now, I think a couple of times, where my bold prediction is just 2 or 3 races too soon. So, but yeah, that was a crazy end. What ended up happening was because of the incident, and to get Lando's car out of there, they had to do a full safety car. They brought around, the machinery to get it out, and they had to, because of where the crash was, they were driving through the pit lane every safety car lap. So the race really finished under a safety car. And congrats to George Russell, who pulled the win. It was a great day for Mercedes. If you're a Mercedes fan out there, very good day for them. They got P1, P3. Max also amazing drive at finishes P2. So yeah, good result for Merck today.
Yeah, man. What an unfortunate end. You know, it, the constructors or the drivers championship is really just coming down to Piastri and Norris. And we sort of seen, they've been going back and forth. And this is the first time where, man, I know Zach's always like, let them race, but this is the problem that you get when you just let them race.
Yeah.
And this is the worst possible outcome for him. But that being said, there's still 1-2 in the drivers championship, except Piastri is now 20 points ahead instead of 10 points ahead. So it's not terribly far away. It's still going to come down to the end, I think, between Piastri and Norris. I like that we were able to see him race. I think they just need to be a little more careful. In my view, I think what Norris was thinking is there's that kink to the right running up to the turn 1. And I think he was like, oh, Piastri's going to go take the normal racing line. And when he does that, then I'll move to the outside. But I think he just had too much speed, more than he thought he had. And he just went for a gap that wasn't really opening up or was there. Because Oscar was like, oh, this guy's coming up on me. I'm going to take the inside and make him take the driving line. And they just both went to the same spot. And that's never going to end well for either one of them. So just very unfortunate, but fortunate for Piastri, he got to continue, but unfortunate for Norris that he hit his teammate.
I wore my old McLaren hat because I felt like it was a little less celebratory than my nice new one, because it was a bummer. The only thing that can really stop McLaren right now from winning both championships is stuff like this, right?
Themselves.
I would say one small disagreement that I have with one thing that you said. You said that it was the worst possible outcome. The worst possible outcome would have been that he took out Piastri, and Piastri didn't also get P4.
I suppose that's true.
But and that didn't happen, luckily, because that totally could have happened. I mean, it's happened before. We've seen teammates hit each other before, and it's disastrous. And it's one of those things where this is racing, and everybody wants to get the best out of their car. I think that if I was Zach Brown or Andrea Stella, what I would do is I would sit the drivers down. You might not even have to do this because I think Lando he's contrite about it, but I would sit him down and I'd say, guys, we need to be absolutely tidy, clean. We can't race each other like that now, but the time will come when you will get to, because if they keep doing things the way they are, they could lock up the championships or have them so close to being locked up later in the season that they can let them race flat out, and it's not going to affect them, losing the constructors or maybe even the drivers championships. That I think that they need to remind them that if we keep it clean now, stockpile points, maybe by round 13, 15, something like that, 18 even, they can race each other harder in the remaining races when the constructors is locked up.
Yeah, you say that, but they're 175 points clear of Mercedes, so
yeah,
that's a pretty good lead, especially after 10 rounds of racing. So McLaren's still in first, Mercedes in second, Ferrari's third.
But the drivers is much closer, right? Like
it's much closer, right?
They could let that
Piastri
one slip.
Piastri's 20 points ahead of Norris, and then Norris is 21 points ahead of Verstappen. Verstappen coming in second, man, pulling in some great points. Um, you know, do you think this race is a one-off where we don't see McLaren 1-2, or do you think this is the other teams finally showing that they're catching up and they're going to start bringing the challenge?
No, I'm going to lean more towards it's a one-off, and I say that as a McLaren fan. uh, but there's only one reason. I will change that opinion later. If like right now it looks like Merc is on the rise. Merc's been doing well. They've kind of, I think you've mentioned, they've sneakily been getting points week after week. I think George has been great this year, if I can say so. And and he does not have a seat next year tied up yet. He doesn't have contract for McLaren, and I think days like today, Toto should really be considering maybe we should just keep him around. He kind of got the triple crown today, right? Like he qualified on pole, got the fastest lap, and won the race, and he was just great. He was great out there, and so yeah, I think George was fantastic. Now, George was asked a question after the race, kind of like what you just asked, what you just asked me, and it was like they have a history of being faster when it's cooler. In hot weather, they're not as good. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. It has to do probably with the aerodynamics of their car and the cooling and all that. But he was hesitant because of that reason to like say, oh yeah, this is us. We're back. Mercedes is back. The result was really good. P1, P3 for them. Huge haul of points, putting them kind of squarely into second place. And so. But yeah, I don't know that they're back. Let's wait another race or two, and then if they keep this up, then we can maybe say, okay, maybe there's somebody here to challenge McLaren a little more. And then Max is Matt. I mean, he's just great. He's just a great driver. It's hard to say much else. He's so clean and tidy. He gives good feedback to his team. The one thing that I could do without is his aggressive behavior. Like, it's not even his aggressive racing. It's like, I don't know if you noticed this, but during the safety car, he comes on the radio, George just braked really hard, because it might have been some gamesmanship. I think maybe George was trying to like hit the brakes, and then Max went up and kind of went ahead of him, which is, you can't do that under a safety car. If he passes him, that's a penalty, and maybe George was trying to get him a penalty. But like, Max comes on, he's always got to like be accusatory towards the other racers and stuff. And I could do without that, but the guy is good, and the guy knows the rules inside and out, and he's always trying to exploit whatever he can. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think you can argue that Max Verstappen isn't one of the greats, maybe one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, Max loves to play those head games.
Yeah,
he's like, I did hear him come on the radio. It's like, oh man, like George is trying to like brake check me. You can't do that. Like,
yeah.
we need to investigate this guy. And then Russell's hits the brakes and looks over. He's like, hey, Max is passing me. I think we need to investigate this guy.
Yeah,
like, you can't pass under a safety car. Like, it was some crazy like games going on.
The FIA did look into George after the race because Red Bull filed a complaint or whatever, a protest or whatever. But they basically tossed it out.
Yeah,
no further,
which is rightfully so. Like, yeah. Max is just crying wolf.
Yeah.
But this is was that 1, 2, 3, 4? This is a 5th podium for George Russell this year.
Yeah,
so doing pretty well. It's also the fifth podium for Verstappen. So they're tied in podiums. They're just separated a little bit on the points. 20 points, 19 points separate Russell and Verstappen. So if the fight's not going to be for 1-2, it'll definitely be for 3-4.
Yeah,
coming up, because I hope it's not a one-off. I hope this is the cars coming up to fight and make the challenge to McLaren. I mean, Verstappen's always been quick. I mean, you've seen it. He's outperformed his teammate in every single race this year. Um, and even him saying, the car's struggling or the car's not where I want it to be, he still manages to have a really good result, regardless. Like I said, he's got 5 podiums so far this season. He's racking up a ton of points.
Mm-hmm.
So
I had this very thought while I was watching the race. What would it be like if Max had a true great supporting second driver? I mean, there were many races where Checo Perez was that for him, right? Checo, on multiple occasions, through his defense, held opponents back, giving Max the opportunity to build. And I think including in that year when he won his first ever championship, right? Checo was holding back Lewis Hamilton for lap upon lap. And it would be fantastic if I think Red Bull would be number 2 right now if they just had somebody that could squeeze that kind of drive out of that car. So it can't all just be Max. The car has to be at least decent. And so I don't know what it is about that car or how they've developed it that if it's just, so much to Max's specifications and nobody drives like Max, but I wish that they could find somebody that they could stick in that car and get more out of it. Somebody finishing top 5 routinely, somebody being there when they need to play a team strategy, because right now they got nothing. It's just all Max. He's going out there having to squeeze it all out. They can't play the DRS game, holding people up, building gaps, driving in dirty air and ruining other people's tires and stuff like that. So yeah, I would love to see them find somebody that can get something. I was hoping it would be Yuki. I thought Yuki was going to rise to the top for this, but he just hasn't been there.
yeah, and you know what? I'm looking back right now. So looking at Perez specifically, so in 2020, that was his last year with Racing Point, which is now Aston Martin, of course. Right? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, Lawrence Stroll bought them out when they were in.
That's right.
In whatever it was.
And Renault became Alpine. That's
right.
what it is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So in 2020, that was his last year at Racing Point, and Perez finished 4th in the Drivers' Championship, albeit quite a ways behind the top 3. 2021 is where he moved to Red Bull, and he finished 4th again. That's where Verstappen won. 2022, Perez finished 3rd. Only 3 points behind Leclerc, who was in 2nd. So very close running. 2023 moved up again and finished 2nd, albeit a huge gap. Verstappen finished with 575 points and Perez finished with 285. So a huge drop. And then last year, man, he just fell off for whatever reason. Perez finished all the way down in 8th last year. It was such a horrible season for him, despite starting so well, because he finished 2nd the first 2 races in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Australia, he was 5th. And then after that, it was 2nd, 3rd, 4th. And then in Italy, that's where he finished 8th, followed by 2 DNFs, and then 8th, and then 7th, then 17th. And it was just a culmination of bad races from that point on. He ended up with 5 DNFs that last year. Just a horrible season for him.
Yeah, there was a cliff that, and the last couple of years, it kind of seemed like around round 8 to 12, his season went down. But to be honest, I think it was a mistake by Horner and Helmut Marko to let him go. He would, I think, be doing better than any of the other drivers in the system right now. I think he does better than Yuki. I think he does better than Lawson, and I think he would probably still, he would be doing better than Hadjar. So I think that they made a mistake letting him go. I don't think that Danny Rick would have done as good as Checo, but At this point, like I said, like I've said for a couple of weeks, might as well throw Danny Rick in there. I think the
Yeah.
ratings people would tune in to see it.
You know who I've always thought would do a really good job in Red Bull would be Fernando Alonso. We've been saying that the Red Bull is a very uh, front end car, right? You have to be aggressive when you drive it. And when you go back and you watch Fernando Alonso driving Renault in his prime, he had a very aggressive driving style where he would. It looked like he was trying to break the car loose with how hard he would jerk the steering wheel to make the corners. Like he had a very aggressive driving style, and that aggressive driving style, I think if he could bring that to Red Bull, I think he would excel there and probably give Max a really good run for his money, quite honestly.
You're ringing my bell, James. That would be sweet. I would love to see Fernando in there. I don't know what it's like for Fernando over at Aston. I think it would be an awkward place to be at Aston, given that it's Lawrence Stroll in charge of everything and his son is in the driver's seat. So here Fernando had a great a great season a couple of years ago, and then it's really dropped off. And I sometimes wonder what it's like if they're happy with the fact that Fernando was really destroying Lance Stroll, and in every way, qualifying and finishing races for a while. I don't know if that caused any issues. I don't know. I'm just making that up. It's circumstantial at best. We should say too that Alonso now 2 points finishes in a row, P7 today.
Yes.
So another good points finish for Fernando.
And it seems like he's got that fire. He came on the radio today when his engineer was like, "Hey, you need to go kind of softer in these two corners." He's like, we're racing. We're not testing. Like, what is this? Like, you need to let me just attack this stuff."
I love that.
So I think there's still a fire there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, man. Second points finish in a row coming off of 3 DNFs. And I'm looking at his results right now. He's only finished 11th or 15th. So, and it's alternating. He went 11, 15, 11, 15, 11, and then DNF. But now he's back in the top 10. So, not doing so well in compared to other drivers. Alonso's still down in 16th in the championship. Only 8 points total.
Hey, he had 0 just 2 races ago.
He did have 0 just 2 races ago.
Yeah.
In all fairness, Hadjar's sitting in 10th, and he's only got 21 points. So,
yeah, those lower positions could get eaten up and swapped around very quickly with a couple of good finishes from somebody, or a crazy result due to weather or some other crashes or stuff like that. So yeah. While we're talking about Alonso squeezing in some points, Ocon grabbing a P9, so grabs a couple points too. So a decent day for Haas, and Behrman just outside the points in P11.
Man, super impressed with Ocon. Well, I'm impressed with Alonso, Hulkenberg, and Ocon today. Even Sainz. Terrible starting position, but made up some great ground. He had a really good run today, and not drivers that you normally see in the top 10 were in the top 10. So the strategy really helped out a lot of people, especially being a 2-stop race.
Sainz definitely the beneficiary there, right? He was up and down that back half of the grid at various points. He was, I think, dead last, or middle of the pack at the back, and finishes with a point. So really kind of squeezed something out there. I thought that was great for Sainz.
Yeah, man. All in all, like, I know it was kind of a bit of a snore, but if you're really into like strategy and what drivers are doing lap by lap, it was a decent race. But I could see how, like, if you were the average viewer, you'd be like, "Oh man, this is a snore fest."
Well, like I said at the beginning, I was having trouble keeping track of the strategy. It seemed like a lot was going on strategy wise, and probably a lot of calculation about like how bad the tires really were doing, right? So they were like losing lap times earlier than they thought they would. So then they had to kind of switch the game plan so that they were going with the hard tires as much as they could. And then people were on hards and still pitting and putting another set of hards on. So it was like, um, you know, it was I couldn't keep straight what people were doing. Uh, which maybe that's a good thing. A lot of twists and turns that if you're really paying attention. But I don't know. My brain wasn't working well enough to keep up with all of the numbers today. But yeah, there just wasn't a lot of on track battles that were getting me excited. That was the only reason that I said it was kind of a more boring race than I was expecting. Nobody hit the wall of champions either, so that was a little bit of a disappointment. We had a clean race from that standpoint. Um, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad race. It just was not as much on track passing, and we were really looking more like, okay, well, let's see, where's so and so going to come out of the pit? If are they going to cover off somebody? So yeah, there was a lot more of that kind of action today. And then of course that really dramatic finish. And it seems to me that like in a lot of these instances, we haven't seen too many races. I don't think we've maybe seen any races this year that were boring front to back. It was, there was something going on. I think maybe Suzuka might have been the most boring race so far, and even that was fairly entertaining. So, yeah, things are going pretty good, I'd say. This season, it's been an eventful season, and even the races where there's not as much action, they've offered us something to be excited about. That crash from Lando, it really was sort of one of those things that you just don't see it very often, and it's going to get a lot of replay, and it's going to be on probably Drive to Survive, and it's going to, they're going to talk a lot about it, and they'll read a lot of stuff into it when when everything's said and done. So, and it'll become even more poignant later in the season, I think, if it comes down to a very tight race between Oscar and Lando for the Drivers' Championship. So people will talk about that and how that impacted things.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But that's kind of all the talking points I had. The only other one to mention would be Ocon, who finished in 9th. Everyone behind him was a lap down. So starting at Ocon, those cars were hustling, man.
Yeah.
It just goes to highlight just how fast the top drivers are compared to even the midfield, because
right.
They probably, I would need to go back and look at it, but they probably would have ended up catching Alonso and Hulkenberg before the race was over.
So. Well, I mean, and how about Hulk being one of the cars that didn't get lapped? That's pretty significant too. From Hulkenberg, what a day!
What a day! I'm hoping they can keep on that momentum and parlay that into the next race.
Yeah.
Which I should say, there is no race next week. It is a bye week next week. But we are looking forwards to race number 11 in Austria.
Austrian Grand Prix.
Red Bull Ring.
That's right.
Is it even? I don't even know if it's called the Red Bull Ring anymore.
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's what I was going to call it, but it does say it's the Formula One MSC Cruises Austrian Grand Prix. So it's sponsored by MSC Cruises. I don't know what they.
It is still called the Red Bull Ring, so that's good.
Okay, nice.
I know it was called the A1 Ring for the longest time in the 2000s, but I'll take the Red Bull Ring. Hoping Red Bull Max Verstappen can come out with something on top. He's done pretty good. He's always been kind of a dominant driver there.
Yeah. Home race for Red Bull. They invented their energy drinks there, and their crazy animated TV commercials.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, we could probably talk a little bit about that next week, since we do have an off week. But Verstappen did not win it last year, right? I think it was. Is it a Mercedes win? Anyway, we could probably talk about that next week. I think it was George Russell that won at Austria last time. So hopefully hopefully maybe that's a good news for Mercedes going into another race where they might have a chance to pull off another victory. That'd be big for them.
You are right. Austria or Russell did win last year. Verstappen finished all the way down in fifth. I think I'm gonna have to go back and we rewatch that race and refresh myself and see what happened. Sort of a mixed bag.
Yeah,
2 Haas's in the top 10. That can't be right. All right, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that one.
Well, I guess we should mention one last thing, James, before we call this a day.
Yes,
We're recording on Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. As for me, I'm gonna try this. I don't know if this is gonna be a disaster, but I'm gonna show you a little something that I got for Father's Day. It's
let's see it.
It's a pair of socks. Let's see if I can do this without destroying my studio. Okay.
You're gonna have to get them way up there. What do we got?
We got some little orange
some
papaya colored race cars. It's a little. They're not official McLaren socks, but it is an orange papaya car there. So
nice.
Sporting the the socks, and then you get to see my screen or my little sheet set up here. Anyway, had to show that.
Yeah, man. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I called my dad, wished him a happy Father's Day. I know you're a dad too, so happy Father's Day to you as well. And
thank you,
mothers that are filling in the father role. Happy Father's Day to you too.
And to the dog fathers. That's you, James. Give yourself credit,
dad. Yeah.
So, yeah,
I'm the best dog dad.
That's right. Number one dad.
Number one dad.
You think you're better than me?
Mandelbaum.
For all of our Seinfeld fans out there, they don't get to participate in all the texts back and forth that have Seinfeld references, so we'll bring them in here.
Greatest show on earth.
Agreed. All right. Well, I guess we'll call it a day, and we'll reconvene for off week next week. Maybe we can look ahead to Austria and talk about whatever else crazy happens between now and a week from now. So, adios, James.
Adios, Don.